Do you mind if I ask you a bit more about your history with addiction?
No, that's fine. I mean, I've talked about it on stream before. I used to be a big binge drinker. I would black out all the time. I got arrested for a DUI. And I was lucky because like it was actually an instance where I was not drunk driving. And that's the reason why I only got arrested, but never actually prosecuted for it. But certainly, like, if I'm being honest, there were definitely times when I had, there definitely had been times where I had. And after that, I had really good friends. I was very fortunate. I had a support system that pulled me aside and was like, bro, this is, you got to stop. And I quit cold turkey and I stopped drinking for a year. And now I don't really drink either. I still don't really drink. Every now and then I'll drink one, but I've talked about this before. Like, addiction is anyone who has sobered or anyone who has like struggled with addiction knows that it's a lifelong struggle. It just never goes away. You can figure out ways to manage it. If you're really lucky, many people are not. If you're really lucky, you can even like, sometimes dip your toe back in. I do not suggest that for anyone though. Like I said, it's just, it is a lifelong struggle regardless. And, that was one of those instances that was really hard for me to deal with. But that's part of the reason why I know more about myself, about my addictive personality, which is why I am very careful with things that I launch myself into. I try to manage what I call healthy addictions, like streaming is definitely one, and working out, eating right. These are things that I hyper focus on. But it can get out of hand. But at least like if my streaming addiction is getting out of hand, I'm still working. You know what I mean? And I love what I do, and it's very fulfilling for me.
What about cigarettes and nicotine?
Cigarettes and nicotine is actually cigarettes in general is actually a really good way to manage addiction, or to talk about addiction. You start smoking cigarettes. A lot of people start smoking cigarettes because they think it looks cool. Okay. And it kind of does. Let's be real. Sorry. Can
you elaborate on what you mean by that?
I mean, I thought it looked cool when I was smoking.
No, sorry. Not it looking cool, but it being a good way to manage addiction.
Oh, cigarettes is a good way to talk about managing addiction or how addiction works. For me, I've talked about it before on my stream as well, where you start a little bit. Some people never actually smoke a second cigarette ever again or want to smoke a second cigarette ever again. But the way I analyze addiction from my smoking addiction was informative, at least for me and for others as well when I've talked about it, where I see addiction as like the time period between your first ever cigarette and your entire pack a day smoking habit developing, shortening every single time you smoke and you quit smoking and you relapse. So the first time you ever smoke a cigarette, from that point on to get to an entire pack a day is going to take you maybe a year. For some people, it's going to take a month. For others, it's just going to always stay social. A lot of people are social smokers. They smoke when they drink. They smoke when they're outside with other people. There is a camaraderie that comes along with it, right? And then every smoker has probably experienced this. They quit, okay? They quit smoking, and they start feeling better, and they stop smoking for a month, and then one night, on a weak moment, right? They go out to a bar, someone's smoking, and they say, "Hey, you want a cigarette?" And you go, "Yes, sure, I'll have one. Why not?" Okay? And then you smoke that first cigarette, and then you start bumming cigs off of people over and over again every time you go out. And the more you bum, the more you're like, okay, it was fine. I'm still bumming. I'm not like buying a pack or anything. And then at a certain point, you decide this is how addiction creeps back into your life. You say, hey, you know what? I'm sick and tired of bumming cigarettes. I'll just buy a pack, but I'll give it to other people. Okay? So you go and you buy a pack. You go and you buy a pack of Marlboro Reds. Okay? Or you buy fucking the one with the, God damn it, the one that's like a chimney.
The Camel.
No.
The guys.
I was never a big.
Muscle.
I was a Marlboro Red guy, but no, the one, not Newport's, chat.
Old Ports.
No, American Spirits. I said chimney, and some people got it. Then you get American Spirits because they're like not as tasty and they're not as good, and it lasts longer. But you buy a pack of American Spirits, and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give this to other people, right? Because addiction is like rewiring your brain every moment. And trying to get you to, justify your actions, regardless of whether or not you recognize that shit is killing you, right? Mm-hmm. Then you buy a pack and you're like, well, I'm going to give it to other people because I'm bumming. I'm sick and tired of bumming. And then before you know it, a month later, you're smoking a pack a day. You're waking up and the first thing you do is rush to the fucking balcony, open the door, no matter how fucking cold it is outside, and light one up, okay? And you're smoking an entire fucking pack a day and you're back in it. That window of time between your first cigarette that you smoke versus the entire pack a day when it's like the final worst place you can get to, that window shortens every single time you quit smoking and then start smoking again. That's, in my opinion, how addiction grows inside of you when you relapse. And that relapse refractory period is shorter and shorter and shorter every single time. It's the same with drinking as well. And a lot of people cannot manage it at all, which is why, addiction is a lifelong struggle, no matter what.
And especially with vapes becoming much more common, I have been so surprised to hear, even of friends that I have, that cannot go a night without waking up in the middle of the night and hitting their vape. And
yeah, vaping is really fucking bad. To some
extent, that's like normalized to them.
Yeah. Because your brain is working, constantly to tell you that, while everything is telling you that what you're doing is wrong and it's fucking you up because you're having a hard time walking up a fucking flight of stairs like you're 75 years old and you wake up with a coughing fit in the middle of the fucking night, that's not good. And your body is literally going, stop doing this shit. You're killing yourself. But your brain is like, no, but it feels so fucking good. So we're going to do everything we can to make you continue doing this. It's like the devil on your shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever done something that you either regretted or didn't agree with due to your addiction or some sort of desire from your addiction?
I mean, smoking a pack a day, that's like irreparable. You know what I mean? I've caused irreparable harm to my fucking lungs probably. But as far as alcohol goes, certainly, absolutely. I mean, I just told you, I got arrested for a DUI. It's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. It's probably one of the worst things you can do, as a matter of fact. So, yes.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because I think one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, especially if you've never either personally dealt with addiction or have known someone that has, is how addiction can change a person's behavior to the point of you not being able to recognize them and them not even being able to recognize themselves. Addiction will truly take over a person's entire life. I had a friend in university who was so smart, straight A's, not just borderline genius, but really, really lively. When I say beautiful, I mean beautiful soul, that kind of a person.
Mm-hmm.
Both socially smart and in class, really a joy to be around. And over time, I found out that he struggled with addiction to many hard drugs. And I got to know him very, very well. And to slowly over time also learn about certain things he would do, whether it's lying or stealing, things that were just so clearly not in line with who he was, it almost felt like addiction was like a second face that he had, or like a mask that he felt like he had to put on sometimes.
Yeah.
And
that's how
I feel
functioning
like,
alcoholics work too. Like I don't know. But yeah, that's just, you just have to keep it going.
Yeah, it just makes me sad to see people treat addicts like, oh my God, they stole or they lied or they did this terrible thing. What you don't understand is like what it feels like to have a chemical addiction to something. Like it will rewire your brain entirely. But that doesn't mean that like there isn't a good person underneath there. It just means that they need help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very Canadian of you to approach this subject with empathy rather than immediately be like, this is a moral failure. Because Americans, unfortunately, are they're very cut and dry when it comes to what they consider to be a criminal element, where they think it's they think a lot of people, whether they recognize it or not, think that like, poverty is moral failure and not a result of systemic problems that are completely outside of your control. They think that they have this like moral absolutist position on addicts where they're like, fuck addicts. You know what I mean? Whereas like, no, they definitely deserve empathy, and criminalizing addiction unironically makes it significantly worse. Criminalizing addiction makes it so much worse. These people need treatment. They don't need jail, right? Even if they've done horrible things and they should atone for that. Yeah, they should definitely atone for the horrible things that they've done. Ultimately, I always like to push for a empathy first approach when it comes to this sort of stuff.
I agree. Like as simple as it is, it's actually funny that you mentioned that, because I do recall in school having classes where they tried to teach us how to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. And like, to any chatter out there, do you feel like you're a good person? If you feel like you're a good person, you try not to lie, you don't steal, etc., etc. Imagine you became addicted to a drug, any drug, like physically, chemically addicted. You need to know, no matter how good of a person you think you are right now, you can get to a point where you would do the worst things for another hit, because that's how deep addiction runs. And so if you can accept that that is the reality of how addiction functions, why can't you understand that someone else might also be in that same situation? If you ended up there, would you not want people to help you?
No,
would you not think back
exactly.
to like, I was a good person before I became addicted? Would you not want someone else to get the same help that you would want for yourself? It's really, really that simple to me.
You're literally describing like how to do empathy.
No, I know, but the crazy thing is, like, when I read these Twitter replies, I feel like people can't do that. And I cannot relate. And I think that's why it makes me so mad.
By the way, we're not even talking about Slicker at this point. We're talking about just like people who become addicted to everything.
Yeah.
Like anything and everything that like ruins their rewires their brain. Okay. And that they do horrible things. And obviously you're never going to solve every single problem, right? You're never going to solve every single problem. So what you're supposed to do is at least try to use the government, regulation, rules, laws to try to mitigate as much of the problem as possible. That's why we do not live in a society devoid of any sort of laws or rules whatsoever. Everyone has to agree on it, and it should be a democratic process, certainly. But ultimately, there's a very good reason why we have these measures in place that stop people from going into a casino and dumping, their parents' credit card or however much money they have into that casino.
Yeah, ultimately, it's about trying to lower the amount of people that end up in these situations and end up addicted. And that's why allowing for crypto gambling, not only its mere existence online, how accessible gambling becomes just by having websites you can go to do that, like that is unprecedented access. Not just that, but allowing it to just be freely advertised and showcased on Twitch to hundreds of thousands of people is insanity.
Yeah, I don't understand why they don't see that, like, at any given moment when you click on like the top live streams on the platform, you're going to see like 3 or 4 out of the top 10 streamers just straight up doing slots, which is like the most degenerate form of this because it's like gamified. Every part of the slot machine is created to captivate you. Chatters. If you don't understand it, let me describe it to you. There are people work very long hours in trying to figure out how to suck you in and to get you to lose money, because ultimately the house always wins, right? We all understand that. And that's how slots work for the most part. Yeah, you have quants, you have people working at Stanford, all these like fucking institutions that literally work to try to figure out the best possible way to get you to dump your money. And the way that gambling works, especially the way that casinos work, is that they will literally give you free money to go gamble there, right? Because they know out of every 10 person that they reach, and I don't know the exact number right now, but out of every 10 person that they reach, one is going to be what they consider a whale, a lifelong gambling addict. That is their revenue strategy. Their revenue strategy is to literally cast as wide a net as possible so they can get the fucking whales through the door.
Bro, it's like if a drug dealer gives you free drugs.
Yeah, I mean, wait, what? They do that. They do that.
I know. That's why it's so, like, to draw that parallel, I wish people would understand it's very similar. I think sometimes people sit at home and they're like, my willpower is strong. That could never be me. That's not the case. Like, if that is your logic, you genuinely just don't understand how addiction functions.
Yeah.
Actually, 2 things. One, I just want to say, if this means anything to anybody at home, the wonderful people that I was speaking of, the friend that I had made in university, unfortunately lost his life to addiction. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this. Not only that, but also, if anything, I feel like I'm glad that I was able to meet him and truly understand what it looks like to know someone who has an addiction like that. And the fact that it's not just, oh, if someone's addicted, it's their fault. They must be a bad person. They made bad decisions. That's really, really, really not the case. Secondly, I was hoping, Hasan, maybe you will be able to better elaborate on this, because I can't. Like, I can try, but I think you might be able to do a better job. I think a lot of people really, really like to compare addictions, whether drug, gambling, and then they want to compare it to things like porn addiction, to food addiction. Like, of course, people can be addicted to different things, but I think certain addictions are much, much more severe and debilitating, and they have a higher likelihood of ruining your life and the lives of those around you, or causing you to take your own life. So could you maybe, especially if you know anything scientifically, or if anyone in chat does, I'm just aware of the fact that there's a large difference between these two, and that's why it's not easy to compare them. But if you can elaborate on why that's the case. Between the two of what?
Gambling versus other kinds of addictions? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, especially when people compare it to like porn addiction or food addiction, it's like, I feel like those are not as comparable to gambling addiction.
So the way gambling addiction works, for most people who don't understand it, I'll describe it. Gambling addiction is not about being addicted to winning. It's actually, and there have been many studies conducted on this, it's about the moment leading up. Did you just ban Mo?
Oh my God.
Oh my God. What the fuck did he say? Oh no!
I can't. I can't. I really can't. I don't want to say anything mean, so I kind of had to.
Oh no! I mean, he's a big gamble boy, isn't he?
I used to have so much respect for him as like a fellow Middle Eastern brother, a streamer of a long time. I think I played CS:GO with him at one point. But his recent takes on gambling, I cannot stand.
Damn,
I
your
gave
mods
him
are
the
so
time
quick.
of day once on Twitter. That's all I can do. That is really all I can do.
Your mods are
What
so
did they do?
fucking quick, Pokey. I was
gotta be.
trying to clap someone and they literally got to them before me. And I'm the
they are
fastest in
so
the fucking
good.
game. I'm the fastest in the fucking game normally. Holy shit.
It's like whack-a-mole, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, as far as I feel you on that, it does suck when you see someone, especially when you see a man, a boy, or girl fucking on the timeline defending shit that's like not great. You're like,
I've just
come on,
started
bro.
unfollowing. I can't deal anymore. I can't. I don't have the heart for it.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is, as far as gambling addiction goes, many people do not understand this. You're not actually becoming addicted to the rush of winning. Okay. Your brain activity spikes in the moments before you actually before you actually figure out whether you won or not. That's what you are addicted to. You're addicted to that moment of uncertainty. Okay. Fuck you, Connor Eats Pants. Resubscribe for 38 months. Says, I hate Pokimane. Hasan sucks.
I know.
Anyway, so that is actually the anticipation is what you are addicted to. And XQC himself has talked about this with you even, I believe, where he's like, nothing feels good anymore. Like that's the only part of your life that you're like excited about because it's such a powerful feeling that you want to recreate over and over again. And especially when you're playing in like super high stakes, when you're like dumping, 75 grand on a fucking spin over and over and over again, that becomes your base point. You're never going to go back to like, doing slots with like pennies and feel that way as well. So it is terrifying, in my opinion. And that's part of the reason why it's so fucking damaging. With porn, you can be addicted to anything. Addiction is more of a personal problem than anything else. Like you can wire your brain. I was addicted to, and I've talked about this before, I was addicted to role play, like No Pixel. It literally ruined my fucking life. People make jokes about it, okay? And it's not the same as like, obviously it's nowhere near the same as like alcohol addiction or anything like that, but you can be addicted. I'm an addict.
Dude, can I just say you can't go from being like, porn addiction. I was addicted to role play. And then you're talking about GTA RP. Like,
yeah, oh, sorry. Yes, I'm talking about GTA RP. I'm talking about GTA RP. Not like role playing in the bedroom.
I was like, oh my, you could be addicted to like a kink?
No.
Well, I mean, you probably can. I don't know. Sorry, go on. GTA RP? Yep,
but it ruined my life. Like it physically ruined my life. I was playing for 16 hours. I was playing for like, I would wake up early to play before I streamed. I would stream it the entire time. I stopped like fucking covering the news and shit for a while. It was ruining my personal relationships. I had no free time. I would literally be in front of a computer for 16 hours to 18 hours a day. And the reason why I use that as an example on top of like my more adult and more, rugged and real addictions, the reason why I use the No Pixel one is because like, I think a lot of people on Twitch could probably relate to that, where I gained so much weight. I lost all my muscle. I started literally getting fatter. I didn't even recognize it at first. I don't know what the fuck was going on. I never went outside. I never talked to another human unless it was like literally in a video game. Like that shit fucked me up. Fucked me up for a while. And it took a long time to recover. Now I
understand why you like cold turkey stopped.
Yeah. And it's not the same for everyone. A lot of people can actually just be fine and manage it. I was not one of those people.
I did a little bit of Googling while you were talking. So I think what I wanted to understand was the different types of addiction. So apparently there's physical and behavioral. Physical relates more to drug addictions. Typically, behavioral is like food addiction, porn addiction, gambling addiction. So that's kind of like the differentiation, but they can both impact your life to the same severity. However, I do think gambling addiction has far worse repercussions, not just to you, but also to those around you. than something like porn addiction might. Also, the rates at which people can be addicted to either thing are very different. And ultimately, just allowing the showcasing of gambling on Twitch is going to have a much larger impact on how many people become addicted to gambling than someone showing off their cleavage on a stream.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That doesn't even work that way. Like you don't,
I know.
You don't like see Amaranth and go, no, oh wow, I'm gonna become a hot tub streamer now. And like there is an epidemic, or there's a fucking epidemic of like people becoming hot tub streamers. Like that's not how this works. It's just that's entertainment. It's not. I don't know how to describe it other than you know, you're like the barrier of like becoming addicted to watching hot tub streams is drastically different than getting addicted to gambling, which there's plenty of empirical evidence to suggest has the highest rate of suicide out of any addictive disorder, with 1 in 5 attempting suicide. Trigger warning, talking about suicide, but it's sometimes called a hidden addiction, as it has no physical symptoms. And that is part of the reason why it is one of the most suicidal, because like there's no like external qualities. Like your body is not decaying in the same way that it would if it's for like any other category, you know what I mean? Any other kind of addictive disorder. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's just more like that. I mean, you saw it with Slicker. He was able to do this for 3 fucking years. Like, you know, he was able to do this for 3 years without people recognizing that he was doing this.